The entire first-class cabin fell silent as orange juice, hot coffee, and a full breakfast tray crashed onto the young woman in seat 2A. Sauce dripped down her Stanford hoodie. Scrambled eggs slid across her jeans. And standing above her with a look that can only be described as a sneer was the flight attendant who had just dumped it all on her lap. The girl looked up, her voice barely a whisper, shaking as she tried to process what had just happened. "Please. I just asked for water." Other passengers gasped. An elderly woman covered her mouth in shock. A business executive pulled out his phone. But none of them knew the truth. None of them had any idea who this girl really was. And more importantly, none of them knew who her father was. Because in less than 2 hours, this entire flight would be grounded. Careers would be ended. And a billionaire's fury would rain down on everyone responsible for what happened to his daughter at 35,000 feet. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this all began, just a few hours earlier. Her name was Maya Richardson. 19 years old, with dark curly hair pulled back in a messy bun, caramel skin that showed her mixed Black and Asian heritage, and eyes that held more sadness than someone her age should carry. She sat alone in seat 2A of Transatlantic Airways Flight 2847, dressed in faded jeans and a Stanford hoodie that had seen better days. No jewelry. No designer handbag. Just a worn backpack shoved under the seat in front of her. To anyone looking at her, she seemed like just another college kid who'd probably blown all her miles or maxed out a credit card to experience first class for the first time. And that's exactly what Maya wanted them to think. What they didn't know was that Maya Richardson could have flown to Singapore on her family's private jet. A Gulfstream G650 with her father's company logo on the tail, leather seats that cost more than most people's cars, and a crew that knew her by name. She could have avoided security lines, avoided the crowds, avoided all of this. But she didn't want that. She didn't want the reminder of who her father was, of the world she'd been born into but never quite felt she belonged to. She wanted to feel normal. Just for a little while. Maya's story wasn't a simple one. For the first 12 years of her life, she'd lived in 2 completely different worlds. Monday through Friday, she stayed with her mother in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Pasadena. Her mom, Sarah, had been a nurse who worked double shifts at a community hospital. Their apartment smelled like her mother's cooking and had furniture from thrift stores. Maya did her homework at the kitchen table and fell asleep to the sound of her mother studying for her night classes, determined to get her master's degree. On weekends, everything changed. Her father would pick her up in a town car, and suddenly she was in a Malibu beach house with 12 bedrooms, a staff of 7, and an infinity pool overlooking the Pacific. James Richardson, tech billionaire, founder and CEO of Richardson Holdings, a man whose companies touched everything from artificial intelligence to renewable energy. A man who was brilliant and driven and who loved his daughter desperately but had no idea how to show it. Her parents had never married. They'd met at a hospital fundraiser when her father was just starting out, when he was still hungry and hopeful and hadn't yet become the titan of industry he was now. They'd fallen in love fast and hard, but they wanted different things. Her mother wanted a simple life helping people. Her father wanted to change the world. So they'd made an arrangement that worked for them, co-parenting Maya between 2 completely different universes. And somehow, Maya's mother had made it work. She'd been the bridge between those 2 worlds, never bitter about the disparity, never resentful of her father's wealth. She'd taught Maya that money didn't make you better or worse than anyone else. That kindness mattered more than comfort. That you measured your life by how you treated people, not by what you owned. 2 years ago, everything shattered. Stage 4 breast cancer. By the time they caught it, it had already spread. Maya watched her mother, the strongest person she'd ever known, waste away over 8 months. Watched her father, usually so controlled and composed, fall apart. Watched him finally realize what he'd lost, not just in Sarah's death, but in all the time he hadn't spent with her when she was alive. Since then, Maya and her father had barely spoken. She'd thrown herself into her studies at Stanford, majoring in mechanical engineering, following in her father's footsteps even though she'd never admit that's what she was doing. He'd sent emails and texts that she rarely answered. He'd offered to visit, to fly her home on weekends, to give her anything she needed. But what she needed was her mother, And that was the one thing his billions couldn't buy. Until 3 weeks ago, when her father had sent her a message that was different from all the others. No offers of money or trips or gifts. Just a simple request. Maya, please come to Singapore. We need to talk about your mother. About us. About everything we've been avoiding. I miss you. I love you. Please. She'd stared at that message for 3 days before responding with a single word, okay. And now here she was, on Transatlantic Airways Flight 2847, a 16-hour journey from Los Angeles to Singapore with a layover in Dubai, dreading every minute of the flight and every moment that brought her closer to the conversation she'd been avoiding for 2 years. She clutched a worn photograph in her hand, the edges soft from being held so many times. Her mother, younger, laughing at the beach, her arm around 8-year-old Maya. It was the only photo she'd brought with her. The only thing that made her feel less alone. Transatlantic Airways Flight 2847 was preparing for departure. The first-class cabin held 12 passengers, each with their own story, their own reason for being there. In seats 1A and 1B sat an elderly couple, Margaret and Harold Chen, married for 50 years, taking their dream anniversary trip to Southeast Asia. They held hands even as they settled into their seats, still in love after all these decades. In seat 4C sat a business executive named David Morrison, mid-40s, already on his laptop before the plane had even pushed back from the gate. He flew first class twice a week and treated it like a mobile office. In seat 3D sat an influencer named Jessica Torres, early 20s, perfectly made up, already filming content for her followers. Her phone was propped up on the tray table as she narrated her first-class experience to her 300,000 followers. In seat 5A sat a quiet man in his 60s wearing sunglasses even inside the cabin. His name was Dr. Richard Park, a philosophy professor returning from a conference in Los Angeles, lost in a book about ethics and moral philosophy. And overseeing all of them was the cabin crew. 3 flight attendants, but one in particular commanded attention. Veronica Hastings, 43 years old, with 15 years of experience with Transatlantic Airways. She moved through the cabin with military precision, her uniform immaculate, her hair in a perfect French twist, her makeup flawless. She wore her experience like armor and her superiority like a crown. Veronica had been a flight attendant long enough to develop a sixth sense about passengers. She could spot the troublemakers, the demanding ones, the ones who'd complain about everything. She could also spot the ones who didn't belong, who'd somehow stumbled into first class without deserving to be there. And when Maya Richardson boarded the plane, apologizing softly for being the last one on because her Uber had hit traffic, Veronica's eyes swept over her with an assessment that took less than 3 seconds. Cheap clothes. No jewelry. Backpack instead of a proper carry-on. No Louis Vuitton, no Gucci, no Prada. Veronica turned to her colleague, Andrea Martinez, a younger flight attendant with kind eyes and only 2 years of experience. Veronica spoke just loud enough for Maya to hear as she passed. They really let anyone in first class these days. Probably used miles or some credit card promotion. Andrea's eyes widened, but she said nothing. She'd learned in her 2 years of working with Veronica that contradicting the senior flight attendant only made things worse. Maya heard the comment. Of course she heard it. Everyone in the front of the cabin heard it. But she said nothing, just moved quietly to her seat in 2A, stowed her backpack, and sat down. She pulled out the photograph of her mother, looked at it for a long moment, then tucked it carefully into her hoodie pocket, right over her heart. The other passengers were settling in. Margaret Chen smiled warmly at Maya as she passed. Taking a trip somewhere exciting, dear? Maya managed a small smile. Singapore. Visiting family. How wonderful! We're celebrating our 50th anniversary. Can you imagine? 50 years with the same person? Harold squeezed his wife's hand. Best 50 years of my life. Maya felt her heart squeeze. That's what her parents could have had. Should have had. If they'd made different choices. If the universe had been kinder. As the other passengers got situated, Maya gathered her courage and pressed the call button. She was nervous about flying, always had been. Ever since her mother's car accident, She'd struggled with anything that involved being trapped in a moving vehicle. Flying was the worst. At least in a car, you could pull over. In a plane, you were committed for the duration. She just wanted some water before takeoff. Something to help with the anxiety that was already building in her chest. Veronica appeared at her seat, and Maya looked up with what she hoped was a polite smile. "Excuse me, could I please have some water before we take off? I'm a nervous flyer and it helps to stay hydrated." Veronica looked down at her with an expression that Maya couldn't quite read. Annoyance? Disdain? "We'll serve beverages after takeoff. Please be patient." "Oh, I'm sorry, I just thought." "The seatbelt sign is on. Take your seat properly, please." Veronica walked away before Maya could respond. Maya felt her face flush with embarrassment. She was in her seat properly. She hadn't done anything wrong. But somehow she felt like she had. A few minutes later, Andrea appeared with a small bottle of water, glancing over her shoulder to make sure Veronica wasn't watching. She leaned down and whispered, "Here. Don't worry about it. Everyone gets nervous flying sometimes." Maya's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you so much. That's really kind." Andrea smiled. "It's nothing. Just, maybe keep it subtle, okay?" Maya nodded, understanding immediately. She waited until Andrea had walked away before opening the bottle and taking a small sip. The water helped, but the knot in her stomach remained. From the galley, Veronica had spotted the exchange. Her eyes narrowed as she watched Andrea walk back. That girl was too soft, too eager to please the passengers. She'd never last in this job if she kept coddling them. Passengers needed to follow the rules, and the rules said beverages were served after takeoff. Period. The plane began to push back from the gate. Maya gripped the armrests, her knuckles white. She hated this part. Hated the feeling of being trapped, of surrendering control to physics and machinery and the skill of pilots she'd never met. She pulled out her phone, one last chance before airplane mode. She had messages from her father. 3 of them, sent over the past 2 days. "Maya, I can't wait to see you. I've cleared my entire schedule. Just you and me. I know this is hard. I know you're still angry with me. But please give me a chance to make things right. Your mother would want us to try. She always believed in second chances. In forgiveness. I'm asking for mine." Maya's thumb hovered over the keyboard. She typed out a response. "Dad, I don't know if I can do this. Coming to Singapore feels like a mistake. I don't belong in your world. I never have. Mom was the bridge between us, and without her, I don't know how we fit together anymore." She read it over 3 times. Then deleted it, word by word, until the message box was empty again. She couldn't send it. Not yet. Maybe after she landed. Maybe after she saw him. Maybe never. She typed instead, "Landing in Dubai in 14 hours. See you in Singapore." She deleted that too before sending. The plane was taxiing now, moving toward the runway. Maya closed her eyes and did what her mother had taught her during her first flight when she was 7 years old. Count backwards from 100. Focus on your breathing. Remember that fear is just your body trying to protect you, and you can thank it and tell it you're safe. 99. 98. 97. The engines roared. The plane accelerated. Maya's breath came faster. 83. 82. 81. The nose lifted. The ground fell away. Los Angeles spread out below them, a sprawl of lights and lives and stories, everyone down there dealing with their own struggles, their own heartbreaks, their own attempts to figure out where they belonged in the world. 67. 66. 65. And then they were airborne, climbing into the morning sky, and Maya let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The worst part was over. Now she just had to survive the next 16 hours. She had no idea that the worst was yet to come. As the seatbelt sign dinged off, passengers began to relax into their seats. David Morrison immediately pulled out his laptop. Jessica Torres angled her phone for the perfect overhead bin shot. Margaret and Harold Chen were already discussing what they'd order for breakfast. Maya pulled out her own book, a thick engineering textbook on thermodynamics. She had finals coming up when she got back, And she'd learned long ago that studying was the best distraction from anxiety. But she couldn't focus on the equations. Her mind kept drifting to Singapore, to her father, to the conversation she'd been avoiding for 2 years. What would she even say to him? That she blamed him for not being there more when her mother was alive? That she resented growing up between two worlds, never quite fitting in either? That she was angry he hadn't appreciated what he had until it was gone? Or would she say what she'd wanted to say for 2 years but hadn't had the courage to? That she forgave him? That she missed him? That she was scared of losing him too because he was all the family she had left? Before this flight, before we get to what happens next, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been judged by someone who didn't know your story? Someone who took one look at you and decided who you were without ever giving you a chance to prove them wrong? Drop your answer in the comments below. Because what's about to happen to Maya happens to people every single day, in airports and restaurants and stores and offices all over the world. And if you want to see how this story unfolds, if you want to know what happens when a flight attendant discovers that the girl she's been treating with contempt is actually the daughter of the man who owns 23% of the airline, then you need to subscribe right now. Hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to take a turn that nobody on this flight saw coming. Veronica moved through the cabin with the efficiency of someone who'd done this thousands of times. She checked that seatbelts were fastened, that tray tables were up, that window shades were in the correct position. Everything had to be perfect. That's what separated good flight attendants from great ones. Attention to detail. But when she looked at Maya, she didn't see someone who deserved that attention to detail. She saw someone who probably couldn't even afford the meal they were about to serve, let alone the seat she was sitting in. And that judgment, that snap decision made in a fraction of a second based on nothing but appearance and assumption, was about to set off a chain of events that would change multiple lives forever. Because Maya Richardson wasn't who Veronica thought she was. Not even close. And in a few hours, everyone on this flight was going to learn exactly what happens when you treat someone badly without knowing who they really are, what they've been through, or who's waiting for them on the other end of the phone. Maya locks the bathroom door behind her, and for the first time in hours, she can breathe. Or at least, she tries to. She looks at herself in the mirror, and what she sees breaks something inside her. Orange juice dripping from her hair. Coffee stains spreading across what was once a crisp white blouse. Chunks of scrambled egg clinging to her jeans. Her mascara is starting to run, not from the beverages, but from the tears she's been holding back for the last 10 minutes. And finally, she lets them fall. This is the Maya that nobody sees. Not the poised college student. Not the billionaire's daughter trying to prove she doesn't need his money. Not the girl who responds to cruelty with quiet dignity. This is just a 22-year-old woman, alone in an airplane bathroom, covered in food, crying because she doesn't understand why someone would hate her for simply existing in a space she paid to occupy. Her whole body shakes as the sobs come. Silent ones because even in her breakdown, she's terrified someone might hear. Might judge. Might give Veronica more ammunition. She grips the edge of the sink, trying to steady herself, and that's when she notices her phone in her pocket. It survived the beverage assault. Small miracles. The in-flight Wi-Fi is connected. And there, glowing on her screen, are messages she's been avoiding since she boarded. All from Dad. Maya, please respond. I know you're on your way. I've cleared my schedule for the week. I want to show you Singapore properly. Maya, please respond. I know you're on your way. I miss you. We need to talk about your mother. About us. That last message came through 2 hours ago. While she was being served salmon she's allergic to. While Veronica was inventing tears of first class that don't exist. While she was learning that her place in the world is always going to be questioned, no matter what ticket she holds. Her finger hovers over the call button. One tap. That's all it would take. Her father would answer on the first ring. He always does when she calls, which is maybe 3 times a year. He'd hear the tears in her voice immediately. He'd probably offer to have the plane turned around, or charter a private jet to meet her, or buy the entire airline and fire everyone who looked at her wrong. Because that's who William Chen is. A man who solves problems with money because he doesn't know how to solve them with presence. And Maya is standing there, covered in coffee and humiliation, realizing that maybe, just maybe, she needs him right now. Maybe being stubborn about accepting his help, his world, his resources, is just another form of suffering she's inflicting on herself to prove a point that nobody's keeping score of except her. But then the flashbacks come. Not gentle memories. Sharp ones. The kind that cut. She's 12 years old, standing in her middle school gymnasium. It's the science fair, and she's been working on her project for months. A model of renewable energy systems, inspired by her mother's stories about growing up in a village with unreliable electricity. Maya's wearing her best dress, the one her mom ironed that morning. She keeps looking at the door, waiting for her father to walk through. He promised. He promised he'd be there. She wins second place. The teacher hands her a ribbon. Her mother is crying with pride, taking photos with a disposable camera they'll get developed at Walgreens. And Maya is smiling in those photos, but if you look closely, really closely, you can see she's scanning the crowd behind the camera. Still waiting. Still hoping. He calls that night from Singapore. A business meeting ran long. He's so sorry. He'll make it up to her. Maybe they can do something special next time he's home. Next time. Always next time. Flash forward 4 years. Maya is 16, and she's learned not to expect him at school events anymore. But she hasn't learned how to tell him what she actually needs. She's crying in her room because her best friend, the girl she's known since kindergarten, suddenly isn't talking to her. High school drama, the kind that feels world-ending when you're 16. Her father, on one of his rare visits home, tries to help. What's her name? Maybe I can talk to her parents. Or we could get you enrolled in that private school, the one with the famous alumni. You'd make better friends there. He's offering to buy her friends. To purchase a solution to a problem that requires emotional intelligence, not financial investment. And Maya realizes, sitting there on her bed with tears streaming down her face, that her father doesn't understand her at all. He loves her desperately, completely, but he doesn't know her. Her mother comes in after he leaves, sits beside her, doesn't try to fix anything. Just sits. And that's what Maya needed. Just presence. Just someone who understands that some problems can't be solved, only felt through. The final flashback is the one that still wakes her up at night. She's 18. Her mother's funeral. The church is packed with people whose lives her mother touched. Former patients, nursing school classmates, neighbors she brought casseroles to, the mailman she always had cookies for. And in the front row, William Chin is crying. Maya has never seen her father cry. Not when his own parents died. Not during arguments. Not during the years of tension when he kept promising to be around more and never was. But here, at his wife's funeral, the man is shattered. His hands are shaking. His shoulders are heaving. He looks, for the first time in Maya's memory, completely human. He holds Maya's hand during the service. His grip is desperate, like she's the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. And Maya realizes, with a clarity that hurts, that her father loved her mother more than he knew how to show. That he's probably loved Maya the same way. Deeply, desperately, and completely inadequately. After the funeral, he keeps trying to talk to her about feelings, about their relationship, about his regrets. But Maya can't. She's too angry. Angry that it took losing her mother for him to finally show up emotionally. Angry that grief made him present when love couldn't. She moves out 2 months later. Takes her mother's maiden name for school applications. Insists on using her student loan money instead of his. Builds a wall between them constructed from 18 years of missed moments. And now she's standing in an airplane bathroom, finger hovering over his number, wondering if she's been punishing him or punishing herself. She starts typing a message. Her fingers move before her brain can censor. Dad, I don't think I can do this. Coming to Singapore was a mistake. I don't belong in your world. I never have. Mom was the bridge between us and she's gone. She reads it back. Every word is true. Every word is also terrifying to send because once she admits it, she can't take it back. She can't pretend she's fine. Can't pretend the gap between them is just about distance and time zones. Her thumb moves to the send button. And then she deletes it. Every word. Watches the cursor eat up her honesty until the message box is blank again. Because here's what Maya knows. Her father will be waiting at Changi Airport with a driver and probably flowers and definitely expectations. He'll take her to his penthouse apartment with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Marina Bay. He'll try so hard to connect in all the wrong ways. And Maya will smile and nod and keep her walls up because it's safer than letting him in and being disappointed again. But before we see if Maya can rebuild that bridge with her father, hit that subscribe button. Because this story is about to take a turn that nobody sees coming, and you'll want to be here when Maya finally decides she's had enough. She takes a deep breath, looks at herself in the mirror again. The tears have stopped, but the evidence remains. She grabs paper towels, wets them, and starts cleaning up as best she can. The coffee stain isn't coming out. Neither is the orange juice. But she scrubs anyway because sometimes the act of trying is all you have. Under her breath, so quiet only she can hear, she whispers, "Mom always said kill them with kindness. I can do this. Just 8 more hours." It's a mantra. The prayer. A lie she's telling herself because the alternative is falling apart at 35,000 feet, and she's already given Veronica enough satisfaction for one flight. She straightens her spine, lifts her chin, checks her reflection one more time. She looks like exactly what she is, a disaster survivor. But she's standing. That counts for something. Maya unlocks the bathroom door and steps back into the cabin. And immediately, she wishes she'd stayed in the bathroom. The first thing she notices is the stares. Every single passenger in first class is looking at her. Some with pity. Some with curiosity. The influencer's phone is definitely pointed in her direction, not even pretending to be subtle about it. The second thing she notices is Andrea, standing by her seat with her back to Veronica, placing something on Maya's chair. She turns when she hears Maya approach, and the guilt and compassion on her face almost makes Maya start crying again. It's a crew blanket. One of the good ones, the soft fleece that usually only comes out for premium passengers. And there's a note tucked into it, written in Andrea's neat handwriting. "I'm so sorry. Please use this." 4 words. "I'm so sorry." As if Andrea is personally responsible for Veronica's cruelty. As if kindness requires an apology. Maya takes the blanket, wraps herself in it like armor, and settles into her seat. Her clothes are still damp and sticky underneath. She can feel the coffee soaking through to her skin. But at least she's covered now. At least she has this small shield of fabric between her humiliation and the world. She's just starting to breathe normally again when the PA system crackles to life. Veronica's voice fills the cabin, sweet as poisoned honey. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the recent disruption. Please remember that first class is a privilege, and we expect all passengers to conduct themselves accordingly." Let me repeat that for you, because it's important you understand the masterclass in passive aggression we just witnessed. Please remember that first class is a privilege, and we expect all passengers to conduct themselves accordingly. She doesn't say Maya's name. She doesn't have to. Every person in that cabin knows exactly who she's talking about. The disruption wasn't Veronica assaulting a passenger with hot beverages. It was Maya existing. Maya asking for water during a panic attack. Maya having the audacity to take up space in a cabin she paid thousands of dollars to occupy. Veronica is rewriting the narrative in real time, turning herself into the professional flight attendant dealing with a difficult passenger. And Maya? Maya is the problem that needs to conduct herself accordingly. The business executive looks up from his phone, his face red with anger. He's been typing furiously since the incident, and something tells me it's not a happy email to his colleagues. He catches Maya's eye, shakes his head in disgust, and goes back to typing. Building a case. Documenting a crime. The influencer is whispering to her phone, her followers getting a real-time play-by-play of what she's calling first-class drama. Tomorrow, this will be a video with a clickbait title and millions of views. Maya's humiliation, monetized. The elderly couple looks devastated. The husband has his arm around his wife, and she's dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Their dream anniversary flight has turned into a front-row seat to institutional cruelty, and they don't know how to process it. Maya sits in silence, wrapped in her blanket, trying to make herself as small as possible. Trying to disappear. trying to survive the next 8 hours without giving Veronica any more ammunition. And then someone speaks. The quiet man in sunglasses, the one who's been sitting 2 rows up this entire flight without saying a word to anyone. He turns in his seat, and for the first time, Maya sees his face clearly. He's older, maybe late 50s, with kind eyes and the sort of presence that suggests he's seen things. Lived through things. "You handled that with remarkable grace," he says, his voice low enough that only Maya and maybe the elderly couple can hear. Maya blinks, surprised. "I don't feel very graceful." He smiles, and it's the first genuine smile she's seen since boarding this flight. Grace isn't about how you feel. It's about how you act when things are difficult. And you, young lady, have conducted yourself with more dignity in the last hour than most people manage in a lifetime. Here's what I want to know. When was the last time a stranger's kindness completely changed your day? Drop your story in the comments, because I think we all need reminders that good people exist, even in the worst situations. Maya feels something crack inside her chest. Not breaking. Opening. This stranger, this man who owes her nothing, is offering her the one thing she desperately needs, validation that she's not crazy. That what just happened was wrong. That she didn't deserve it. "Thank you," she whispers. "I'm Maya." "Dr. James Park," he replies, extending his hand. "Philosophy professor. I'm returning from a conference in London." They shake hands, and Maya notices his grip is warm, steady. Grounding. "Philosophy," Maya says, grasping for normal conversation. "What's your specialty?" "Ethics, primarily. The philosophy of fairness and justice." He laughs softly, which makes witnessing what just happened particularly offensive to my professional sensibilities. Despite everything, Maya almost smiles. "Bad day at the office for you, then?" "Indeed. Though I imagine it's worse for you." They talk for a few minutes. Just quiet conversation, the kind that feels like a lifeline when you're drowning. Dr. Park tells her about his research, about teaching students to think critically about right and wrong. About how ethics isn't about grand gestures, but about small choices made when no one is watching. And then he shares something personal. "I came to America as an immigrant when I was 25, he says. "I had a PhD from Seoul National University, 2 published papers, and barely enough English to order coffee. And for years, people treated me like I didn't belong in academic spaces. Like my success was a clerical error." Maya leans forward, listening. "I remember one particular conference. I was presenting research that would later become quite influential in my field. And a senior professor, a man whose work I admired, interrupted my presentation to ask if I'd like him to explain my own research in clearer English for the audience." "That's horrible," Maya breathes. "It was. But you know what I did?" I smiled. I thanked him for his concern. And I continued my presentation in the same English I'd been using, making sure every word was crystal clear. And at the end, I got a standing ovation. Not because my English improved, but because my work was undeniable. He looks at Maya directly. "What I'm saying is this. People like that flight attendant. They're everywhere. In first-class cabins, in university lecture halls, in boardrooms and coffee shops, and everywhere humans gather. They see someone who doesn't match their expectation of who belongs in a space, and they try to push them out. But their cruelty says everything about them and nothing about you." Maya feels tears threatening again, but these are different. These aren't tears of humiliation. They're tears of recognition, of being seen. "I'm going to Singapore to see my father," she hears herself saying. "I haven't seen him in 2 years. Not since my mother died. And I'm terrified because I don't know if we can rebuild what we lost when she was the one holding us together." Dr. Park nods slowly. "That's brave. Facing difficult relationships is harder than enduring difficult people." "I don't feel brave." "Courage isn't the absence of fear," he says. "It's acting despite it. You got on this plane knowing it would be hard to face your father. You've endured this flight with grace despite someone trying to break you. Maya, you're braver than you think." They sit in comfortable silence for a moment. Maya pulls the blanket tighter around herself. The cabin is quiet now, most passengers trying to rest or distracted by their own entertainment. But Maya feels different. Still hurt. Still humiliated. Still wearing coffee-stained clothes under a crew blanket. But no longer alone. She glances at Andrea, who's stationed near the galley, carefully avoiding Veronica's section of the cabin. Their eyes meet, and Andrea gives her a small smile. Checking in. Making sure she's okay. She looks at the elderly couple, who are holding hands. Their anniversary flight turned into something harder than they expected, but their love clearly unchanged by it. She looks at the business executive, still documenting, still building his case, a stranger fighting for her because it's the right thing to do. She looks at Dr. Park, who's returned to his book but whose presence feels like a shield. And she realizes something important. Veronica tried to isolate her. Tried to make her feel like she was the problem, the disruption, the passenger who didn't belong. But instead, Veronica's cruelty created a community. Brought together strangers who might never have spoken otherwise, united by the simple recognition that what they witnessed was wrong. Maya pulls out her phone one more time. Looks at her father's messages. And this time, she types something different. Dad, I'm on the flight. I'll see you at the airport. Looking forward to spending time with you. It's not honest about how scared she is. It's not vulnerable about the hell this flight has been. But it's something. A bridge. A beginning. She presses send before she can change her mind. 8 more hours. 8 more hours of sitting in coffee-stained clothes, wrapped in a blanket that doesn't belong to her, in a first-class cabin where someone has decided she doesn't belong. But Maya Chin isn't running. She isn't hiding in the bathroom. She isn't calling her father to fix it. She's sitting in her seat. Taking up space. Existing with dignity. Because sometimes, surviving is the victory. And this flight? It's not over yet. Maya sits in her coffee-stained clothes, wrapped in Andrea's blanket, and makes a decision that will change everything. She pulls out her phone. Her hands are still shaking slightly, but her mind is clear. She needs to tell someone what's happening. Not for revenge. Not to cause a scene. But because staying silent feels like accepting that what happened was okay, and it wasn't. She opens her messages to Dad and starts typing. Dad, I'm okay, but something happened on the flight. I'm fine. I'll tell you when I land. I love you. She reads it back. It's honest but vague. Enough to inform him without worrying him. She's about to hit send when her finger hovers over the screen. And then, before she can overthink it, she adds more. I'm sorry I've been distant. I miss you too. I miss Mom. Let's really talk when I get there. 3 sentences. 22 words. 2 years of grief and anger and loneliness condensed into a message that says, I'm ready to try again. She sends it. For about 15 seconds, she feels relief. Like she's finally done something right on this nightmare flight. Like maybe reaching out to her father wasn't weakness but courage. And then her phone rings. The screen lights up with a photo she hasn't looked at in years. It's her and her father when she was maybe 7 years old. They're at a beach somewhere. She's on his shoulders, her hands in his hair, both of them laughing at something her mother said behind the camera. The contact name reads, James Richardson. Not Dad. Not Father. James Richardson. Because 2 years ago, when she changed everything else about how she related to him, she changed his contact name too. Made him formal. Distant. Maya stares at the ringing phone. Every instinct tells her to answer. To hear his voice. To let him help because God knows she could use help right now. But she lets it go to voicemail. Because answering means explaining. And explaining means admitting that this flight has been a disaster. And admitting that means watching her father turn into William Chen, the billionaire, the problem solver, the man who thinks every issue can be fixed with money and power and phone calls to the right people. The voicemail notification appears. She doesn't listen to it. Instead, a text comes through almost immediately. Maya, what happened? Are you hurt? Tell me which flight you're on. Now. That now, in all caps. That's the father she knows. Commanding. Urgent. Already mobilizing resources she didn't ask for. Maya types carefully, trying to strike the impossible balance between honesty and downplaying. Transatlantic 2847. I'm fine. Really. Just some rude service. Don't worry. She watches the 3 dots appear. He's typing. She can practically feel his panic through the phone. What do you mean rude service? And there it is. The follow-up question. The one that will lead to more questions. The one that will unravel the whole story until her father knows about the salmon, the blanket, the beverage assault, the public humiliation. Until he knows that his daughter, the one he's been trying to reconnect with for 2 years, spent 6 hours being systematically degraded at 35,000 feet. Maya makes a choice. She puts her phone on airplane mode. Just like that, the conversation ends. Her father's messages will pile up, unanswered. His calls will go straight to voicemail. And he'll be left wondering, worrying, probably terrifying his assistant and making calls to people who can track flights and passenger manifests. But Maya can't deal with that right now. Because using her father's influence, his money, his power, that's exactly what she was trying to avoid by flying commercial in the first place. She wanted to do this on her own. Wanted to prove she didn't need his world to navigate hers. Even if, sitting here in ruined clothes, that independence feels a lot like isolation. Meanwhile, in the galley, Andrea has cornered Veronica. You can see it in Andrea's body language. She's done being deferential. Done being the junior flight attendant who accepts whatever the senior crew dishes out. She's standing with her arms crossed, her voice low but firm. Veronica, what you did was wrong. That girl could file a complaint. Veronica doesn't even look at her. She's organizing service items, keeping her hands busy, her face carefully neutral. She won't. Girls like that never do. They're used to being invisible. Andrea's voice sharpens. Girls like what? You know exactly what I mean. No, I don't. Explain it to me. And there it is. The challenge. The moment where remaining silent becomes complicity. Andrea is forcing Veronica to say out loud what she's been implying with every action, every sneer, every accidental beverage spill. Veronica finally looks at her, defensive now. She clearly doesn't belong in first class. Probably used some online deal. Even if she did, so what? She paid for her seat just like everyone else. The logic is so simple. So obvious. So completely unanswerable. And maybe that's why something shifts in Veronica's face. The mask of professional superiority cracks, and underneath is someone who's just tired. She sits down heavily on the galley jump seat. When she speaks again, her voice is different. Smaller. My daughter, she's Maya's age. She got into Stanford too. We couldn't afford it. She's at community college now, working retail to save up. And suddenly, we're not looking at a villain. We're looking at a mother who's watching her daughter's dreams get deferred while other people's daughters fly first class to reunite with their billionaire fathers. Andrea's voice softens, but she doesn't back down. That's not Maya's fault. I know, Veronica says, and the way she says it, emphatic, almost angry, suggests she's been having this argument with herself for hours. I know. I see these entitled kids who get everything handed to them and You assumed. You saw a young woman in first class and made up a story about her. She probably has rich parents paying for everything. Listen to that word. Probably. Not definitely. Not obviously. Probably. Veronica knows she doesn't actually know anything about Maya. She created an entire narrative based on what? Maya's age? Her face? The fact that she was traveling alone? The exact details of whatever bias Veronica is carrying? Andrea presses the point home. And if she does? Does that make what you did okay? Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable silence. Because the answer is no. Of course the answer is no. Having rich parents doesn't mean you deserve to be humiliated. Success doesn't mean you deserve cruelty. Advantage, real or perceived, doesn't strip away your right to basic human dignity. Andrea sits down beside her colleague. When she speaks, her voice is gentle now. Understanding but unwavering. You're better than this. The Veronica I trained under 5 years ago would never have treated a passenger like that. And Veronica's response breaks your heart a little bit. That Veronica's husband hadn't left her yet. That Veronica could still afford her mortgage. There it is. The full picture. A daughter's deferred dreams. A marriage that ended. A financial situation that's spiraling. A woman in her 50s who thought she'd have more stability by now, more security, more to show for decades of work. And instead, she's serving meals to people who probably spend more on coffee than she makes in a month. Does that excuse what she did? Absolutely not. Does it explain it? Maybe. Andrea's voice is soft. I'm sorry you're going through that. But you can't take it out on passengers. Veronica doesn't respond. Just sits there, staring at her hands, probably realizing that she's about to lose this job too. That her financial situation, already precarious, is about to get catastrophic. That one moment of cruelty, one tray of beverages, one poor decision might cost her everything. And then the PA system crackles. Senior Flight Attendant Hastings, please report to the cockpit immediately. The color drains from Veronica's face. Because crew members don't get called to the cockpit for good news. And senior flight attendants especially don't get summoned mid-flight unless something has gone very, very wrong. She stands up, smooths her uniform, and walks toward the cockpit like she's walking toward her own execution. If you're wondering what happens when Veronica reaches that cockpit, you need to subscribe right now. Because the next few minutes are going to change everything for everyone on this flight. The cockpit door closes behind Veronica, and she's facing the captain. He's in his 50s, with the kind of stern but fair energy that suggests he's seen everything in his 30 years of flying. The co-pilot is younger, already pulling up information on a tablet. The captain doesn't waste time. Veronica, we've received several passenger complaints about an incident in first class. Veronica's mouth goes dry. Sir, I can explain. I also received a call from corporate. The captain's voice is measured, professional. Apparently, one of our first-class passengers has connections. The word, connections, lands like a bomb. Veronica's face goes pale because she knows exactly what that means. In the airline industry, connections means lawyers, lawsuits, public relations nightmares, career-ending complaints. The captain leans forward. Who is Maya Richardson? She's just a passenger. Young girl, flying on a discount probably. The co-pilot doesn't look up from his tablet, but his voice cuts through Veronica's explanation. Maya Richardson. Seat 2A. Booked by Richardson Holdings. Paid full price, platinum frequent flyer status transferred from private aviation. Every word is a nail in Veronica's coffin. Not a discount. Full price. Not a random booking. Richardson Holdings. Not a typical passenger. Platinum status from private aviation. The captain's voice is dangerously quiet. Richardson Holdings. As in James Richardson, the billionaire. And there it is. The moment Veronica realizes she didn't just assault a passenger. She assaulted the daughter of a man who probably owns more wealth than everyone on this flight combined will earn in their lifetimes. The captain continues, and his tone suggests he's enjoying this even less than Veronica is. I just got off a very interesting call with our CEO. Apparently, James Richardson is a major shareholder in Transatlantic Airways. 23% ownership, to be exact. 23%. Not a minor investor. Not a casual shareholder. 23% means James Richardson has a seat at the table where decisions about Veronica's future will be made. Veronica's voice is barely a whisper. I didn't know. That shouldn't matter, the captain says, and his disappointment is palpable. You should treat every passenger with respect regardless of who they are. The elderly woman in 3B deserves the same service as a billionaire's daughter. The principle applies to everyone. He's right, of course. Veronica shouldn't have needed to know Maya's last name to treat her like a human being. That's the point. That's always been the point. But Veronica is spiraling now, her carefully constructed defense crumbling. What happens now? Mr. Richardson is demanding to speak with the captain. He's asking for details of the incident and who was involved. Veronica's professional mask shatters completely. Please, I have a daughter, I need this job. You should have thought about that before you assaulted a passenger. It was an accident. The co-pilot finally looks up from his tablet. His voice is matter-of-fact, almost bored. The business executive in 4C filmed part of it. He sent it to corporate. It didn't look like an accident. The silence that follows is suffocating. Because there's no defense now. No explanation that will reframe hot coffee and orange juice being dumped on a passenger as anything other than deliberate. The video exists. The witnesses exist. The truth is documented and undeniable. The captain lets the silence stretch, then delivers his verdict. Return to the cabin. Apologize to Ms. Richardson. Sincerely. And pray that Mr. Richardson is more forgiving than I would be in his position. Veronica nods, turns to leave, and you can see her entire body is shaking. She's thinking about her daughter at community college. About her mortgage. About being in her 50s with a termination on her record in an industry that doesn't forgive easily. She's thinking about how one moment of cruelty, one assumption about who belongs and who doesn't, is about to cost her everything. When Veronica returns to the cabin, everyone can sense something has changed. The energy shifts. Conversations stop. Passengers look up. She walks through first class like she's walking through fire, and every eye is on her. The business executive who filmed the incident. The elderly couple who witnessed it. The influencer who's already mentally composing her viral video. Andrea, standing by the galley, watching with a mixture of sympathy and resignation. And Maya, wrapped in her blanket, looking up as Veronica approaches. Ms. Richardson? Veronica's voice is different now. Smaller. Human. Maya's guard is immediately up. Yes. May I speak with you privately? Maya glances around the cabin. At the witnesses. At the people who saw what happened. At Andrea, who gives her an almost imperceptible nod. Anything you have to say, you can say here. It's not vindictive. It's protective. Maya is done with private conversations where power imbalances can be exploited. If Veronica has something to say, she can say it in front of the people who watched her cruelty play out. Veronica takes a deep breath. You can see her gathering courage, or maybe just accepting the inevitable. I owe you an apology. My behavior today was completely unprofessional and inexcusable. I made assumptions about you that were wrong, and I treated you with disrespect. I'm truly sorry. It's a good apology. Specific. No excuses. Takes full responsibility. The kind of apology someone gives when they've been coached or when they genuinely understand they were wrong. Maya studies her for a long moment. And then she asks the question that matters more than the apology. Why? Veronica blinks, confused. Why am I apologizing? No. Why did you treat me that way in the first place? Here's my question for you. When someone apologizes to you, do you accept it immediately or do you need to understand the why first? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I think Maya's response is going to surprise you. Veronica struggles. You can see her weighing how honest to be, how vulnerable to make herself. Finally, she speaks. I was having a difficult time, and I took it out on you. That's not an excuse. There is no excuse. It's true and it's not enough. Maya knows it. We know it. Probably Veronica knows it too. Maya presses further. Do you treat all passengers like that, or just ones you think can't fight back? The question is surgical. It cuts right to the heart of what happened. Veronica didn't treat the business executive this way. Didn't treat the elderly couple this way. Didn't treat the influencer this way. She targeted Maya specifically. And Maya wants to know why. The question hangs in the air, and Veronica can't meet her eyes. That's a fair question. And one I need to think about. It's not an answer, but it's not a deflection either. It's an admission that Maya's question has hit something true, something uncomfortable, something that requires real self-examination. Maya takes a breath. When she speaks, her voice is steady. I accept your apology, but I don't think I'm the only one who deserves one. Veronica looks confused. I don't understand. Andrea, your colleague. She tried to do the right thing and you humiliated her. You should apologize to her too. Think about this for a second. Maya, who was just publicly humiliated herself, is using this moment to advocate for someone else. She's not centered on her own pain. She's thinking about Andrea, who risked her job to bring a blanket, who defied orders to offer water and crackers, who stood up for basic human decency and got punished for it. Veronica nods slowly, clearly not having considered this. And then Maya says something that changes the entire tone of the conversation. And maybe apologize to yourself. You seem like you're carrying a lot. Veronica's eyes fill with tears. Because when was the last time someone showed her compassion? When was the last time someone acknowledged that hurt people? That her cruelty came from a place of pain, even if that doesn't excuse it? Veronica whispers. Thank you for being kinder than I deserve. She walks away, heading toward Andrea, and you can see her wiping her eyes. The elderly woman leans across the aisle toward Maya. That was very gracious of you, dear. Maya wraps the blanket tighter around herself. My mom always said hurt people. Doesn't make it okay, but it makes it understandable. And there it is. The lesson Maya's mother taught her. The one that lets her hold people accountable without dehumanizing them. The one that says you can recognize someone's pain while still requiring them to do better. Maya watches Veronica approach Andrea in the galley. Watches them have a quiet conversation. Watches Andrea's expressions soften from guarded to something like forgiveness. And Maya realizes something. This flight has been hell. Absolutely, undeniably hell. But it's also been a masterclass in human complexity. In understanding that villains are often just people having their worst day. That grace doesn't mean accepting mistreatment, but it does mean recognizing humanity even in those who forget to recognize yours. She pulls out her phone, takes it off airplane mode. 17 missed calls from her father. 32 text messages. The most recent one, sent 3 minutes ago. Maya, I'm tracking your flight. It lands in 6 hours. I'll be waiting at the gate. We'll talk about everything. I love you. Maya smiles, types back. I love you too, Dad. I have a lot to tell you. But I think I'm going to be okay. She means it. Not because the flight got better. Not because Veronica apologized. Not because everything is suddenly fixed. But because Maya just learned that she's stronger than she thought. That she can hold space for her own pain while extending compassion to others. That belonging isn't about waiting for permission, it's about claiming your space with dignity. 6 more hours to Singapore. 6 more hours wrapped in a blanket, wearing coffee-stained clothes, sitting in a first-class cabin where someone tried to make her feel like she didn't belong. But Maya Chin belongs everywhere she chooses to be. And that's something no one can take away. The PA system crackles to life, and Maya's stomach drops before the words even finish. Ms. Richardson in 2A, please come to the front of the aircraft. You have an urgent call. Every head in first class turns to look at her. Because passengers don't get called to the front of the aircraft for good news. And they definitely don't get urgent calls unless something has gone very, very wrong. Or unless your father is James Richardson, billionaire, and he's just found out his daughter was assaulted on a plane he partially owns. Maya stands up, still wrapped in Andrea's blanket, and walks toward the cockpit area. Each step feels heavier than the last because she knows exactly what's coming. She took her phone off airplane mode. She texted her father that she was okay. But she also told him which flight she was on. And James Richardson is not a man who accepts vague reassurances when his daughter's safety is involved. The captain is waiting near the cockpit door, holding a satellite phone. His expression is apologetic, almost sympathetic. Your father insisted, he says, and the way he says insisted suggests that James Richardson's version of insisting involves words like immediately and or else. Maya takes the phone. Her hand is shaking slightly. Hi, Dad. The voice that comes through is one she knows intimately. Powerful. Controlled. But underneath the control is something raw and frightened. Maya, are you all right? Tell me exactly what happened. She tries to downplay it. Tries to make it smaller than it was. Dad, I'm fine. It was just a misunderstanding. I've seen the video. His voice cuts through her deflection like a knife. A flight attendant threw food on you. That's not a misunderstanding. Maya's heart stops. Someone filmed it? A passenger sent it to the airline. The airline sent it to me. There's a pause, and when he speaks again, his voice is different. Strained. Maya, I'm looking at footage of you being humiliated and He can't finish the sentence. Because James Richardson, the man who negotiates billion-dollar deals without blinking, who commands boardrooms and builds empires, is watching his daughter, his only child, being publicly degraded, and he's breaking. I promised your mother I would protect you. Always. His voice cracks on the word, always. And I let you fly commercial because you wanted independence, but this. Dad, please don't make this a big thing. She apologized. It's handled. The silence that follows is dangerous. When he speaks again, his voice has shifted into something Maya recognizes. This is James Richardson, the businessman. The problem solver. The man who doesn't accept things being broken when he has the power to fix them. It's not handled. I've already called an emergency board meeting with Transatlantic. That flight attendant will be fired. No. Maya's voice is sharp, urgent. Dana, don't do that. What? Don't fire her. Don't make this into something that ruins her life. There's genuine confusion in his voice now. She humiliated you in front of an entire cabin. I know. And it was wrong. But firing her doesn't fix anything. It just makes me feel powerful at someone else's expense. You're too forgiving. Just like your mother. And there it is. The comparison that Maya has been living with her entire life. Just like your mother. As if being like her mother is both the highest compliment and the greatest concern. Maya takes a breath and plays her trump card. Mom would tell you the same thing. Remember when that journalist wrote that awful profile about you? Mom talked you out of suing him. That was different. How? The silence stretches. Because it wasn't different. Not really. Maya's mother had a gift for seeing people's humanity even when they were at their worst. She understood that punishment might feel good in the moment but rarely created actual change. What do you want me to do, Maya? Her father sounds lost. I can't just let this go. Yes, you can. For me. Please. I'm your father. It's my job to protect you. And this is the moment. The conversation they've been avoiding for 2 years. The thing that's been sitting between them like a wall since her mother died. Then protect me by trusting me. By letting me handle my own problems. By not making me feel like I can't do anything without your money or influence swooping in to save me. The words hang in the air. Maya can hear her own heartbeat. Can feel the weight of finally saying out loud what she's been carrying silently. When her father speaks, his voice is barely above a whisper. Is that how I make you feel? Sometimes. Yes. The pause that follows feels like an eternity. Maya closes her eyes, waiting for defensiveness, for explanations, for all the reasons why he does what he does. Instead, he says, I never wanted that. Your mother, she was so good at balancing everything. I'm just trying to. I know, Dad. I know. And I love you for it. But I need to live my own life. Make my own choices. Even when they're hard. Including forgiving someone who treated you terribly? Especially then. She can hear him take a shaky breath. And when he speaks, there's something in his voice she hasn't heard in years. Vulnerability. Real, unguarded vulnerability. You're stronger than I am. Maya feels tears streaming down her face now. I learned from the best. Mom always said you were stronger than you thought. I miss her so much. Me too. Every single day. And then they're both crying. James Richardson in his office in Singapore, probably surrounded by assistants and lawyers and people waiting for decisions. And Maya Richardson, standing in the galley of a plane at 35,000 feet, wrapped in a borrowed blanket with coffee stains on her jeans. Father and daughter, separated by thousands of miles and 2 years of grief, finally having the conversation they should have had at her mother's funeral. When her father speaks again, his voice is steadier. Resolved. I won't fire her. But I am making changes to the airline's training and oversight. This shouldn't happen to anyone. That's fair. That's actually really good. And Maya? When you land, can we really talk? About everything? Yes. I'd like that. I love you, sweetheart. I love you too, Dad. Maya hands the phone back to the captain and returns to her seat. She's still crying, but it's different now. Not the tears of humiliation from the bathroom. Not the tears of panic from the turbulence. These are tears of release, of healing, of a bridge being rebuilt one honest conversation at a time. If this story is hitting you in the feels, hit that subscribe button because we're not done yet. The ending is going to show you why sometimes the hardest flights lead to the most beautiful destinations. As Maya settles back into her seat, she's immediately aware that everyone is watching her. The other passengers have clearly been speculating about who she is, why she got called to the cockpit, what that phone call meant. The business executive in 4C is the first to speak. He leans across the aisle, his voice earnest and concerned. I hope you're filing a complaint. I've documented everything, timestamps, photos, video. I'm happy to serve as a witness. Maya manages a small smile. Thank you, but it's been resolved. He looks confused. Resolved? That woman assaulted you. And she apologized. Sometimes that's enough. The influencer chimes in from behind them, her phone still in hand. Girl, if you need my footage for evidence, I got everything. The meal situation, the blanket thing, and especially the beverage incident. I can send you the files. I appreciate that. Really. But I think we can all just move forward now. You can see the confusion on their faces. They're expecting legal action, complaints to corporate, maybe even a lawsuit. They're expecting Maya to do what anyone in her position with her resources could do. Unleash the full force of her father's influence and make Veronica's life a living nightmare. But Maya is choosing something different. Something harder. The elderly woman leans over, her eyes soft with understanding. You're handling this with remarkable maturity. Your parents raised you well. Maya's smile is sad but genuine. My mom did. My dad, he's still learning how to do it without her. Andrea appears beside Maya's seat, and there's something different in her demeanor. Respect. Gratitude. Maybe even awe. Ms. Richardson, I just wanted to say, thank you. Veronica told me what you said. About her apologizing to me. You deserved an apology too. Andrea glances toward the galley, then lowers her voice. I heard you on the phone just now. You stopped your father from getting her fired, didn't you? Maya doesn't confirm or deny, but her silence is answer enough. That was incredibly kind. Especially after everything. She's going through something. We all are, I guess. Andrea's eyes glisten with unshed tears. Still, most people wouldn't have done that. Most people would want revenge. Would want to see her suffer the way she made them suffer. Maya adjusts the blanket around her shoulders. My mom used to say that being kind isn't about whether people deserve it. It's about who you want to be. And that line, it's about who you want to be, hits Andrea like a revelation. Because how many of us make our choices based on what other people deserve versus who we want to be? How often do we let other people's worst behavior determine our own? Andrea wipes her eyes. Your mom sounds like she was an amazing person. She was. She really, really was. After Andrea walks away, Maya sits in the quiet, processing everything. The confrontation with Veronica. The phone call with her father. The choice she just made to show mercy when she had every right to demand justice. And then Veronica appears. She's carrying a tray, and on it is a beautifully prepared meal. Not the first-class service meal. This looks personal, carefully arranged, like something someone would make for a guest in their home. I know you missed lunch, Veronica says, her voice stripped of all the earlier superiority and sneer. This is mine, but I'd like you to have it. It's chicken, and I checked your profile, no allergens. Maya looks at the meal, then at Veronica. You don't have to. I know. But I want to. Maya accepts the tray, and for a moment, they just look at each other. Two women who, a few hours ago, were locked in a power struggle that neither of them really wanted. Veronica hesitates, then asks, Can I ask you something? Okay. Why did you stop your father from firing me? You had every right to end my career. One phone call from James Richardson, and I'd never work in this industry again. Maya considers the question. Not just the surface answer, but the real one. The honest one. Because I don't think one bad day should define someone's whole life. And because I know what it's like to disappoint people you love. To make mistakes when you're struggling. Veronica sits down in the empty seat beside Maya, something she would never have done earlier in the flight. Your father, when he called the cockpit, he was terrifying. I've never heard someone so angry and so controlled at the same time. Like he was using every ounce of restraint not to destroy everything in his path. He's protective. Especially since my mom died. I'm so sorry. Veronica's voice is genuine. I lost my mother young too. It changes you. Makes you angrier at the world than you realize. They share a look of understanding. Two women who've lost their mothers. Who've carried that grief differently but felt it just as deeply. Veronica takes a breath. For what it's worth, I'm going to request a meeting with HR when we land. To talk about my behavior and what led to it. You were right, I owe myself an apology too. I need to figure out why I treated you the way I did. Not just you, but probably others I didn't even realize I was hurting. That takes courage. You inspired it. Veronica stands up, touches Maya's shoulder briefly, a gesture of genuine connection, and walks away. Dr. James Park, the philosophy professor who's been quietly observing everything, leans across the aisle. You handled that with exceptional emotional intelligence. That's rarer than any degree. Maya picks at the chicken on her tray. I just tried to think about what my mom would do. Then your mother must have been quite a woman. Maya reaches into her bag and pulls out something she's been carrying this entire flight. A worn photograph, edges soft from being held too many times. It's her mother, laughing at something off camera, her eyes bright with joy and mischief. She was, Maya whispers, running her thumb over the image. She really was. And then the PA system crackles to life again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've received instructions for a slight change of plans. The cabin goes quiet. Because, change of plans, at 35,000 feet is never a phrase passengers want to hear. We'll be making our scheduled stop in Dubai as planned, but our ground time has been extended. All first-class passengers are invited to use the Transatlantic Platinum Lounge as guests of Mr. James Richardson, with his apologies for the disruption to today's service. Confused murmurs ripple through the cabin. People exchange glances. Who is James Richardson? Why is he apologizing? What disruption? The captain continues. Additionally, all first-class passengers will be receiving a full refund for today's flight and a complimentary round-trip ticket to any destination in our network. The cabin erupts. Oh my goodness, the elderly woman gasps, grabbing her husband's hand. Now that's how you handle customer service, the business executive says, already calculating the value of a first-class ticket to anywhere in the world. The influencer is practically vibrating with excitement. This is insane. My followers are going to lose their minds. Free first-class tickets? Girl, that's like $10,000 in value. Everyone is talking at once, excited and confused and delighted. They're all trying to figure out what happened, why this is happening, who this James Richardson is that's essentially giving them all a small fortune in travel credits. Only Maya sits quietly, a small smile on her face, because she knows exactly what her father just did. Andrea appears beside her seat, leaning down so only Maya can hear. Your father also just donated $500,000 to the airline's Employee Hardship Fund. For crew members struggling financially. Maya's eyes widen. He did. The captain just told us. It's going to help so many people. People who are working 3 jobs like me. People who can't afford unexpected car repairs or medical bills. People who are one emergency away from financial disaster. Andrea's voice breaks. Including me. This fund is going to change my life. Maya feels tears coming again, but these are different. These are tears of pride. Because this is something her mother would have suggested. Not the flashy gesture of refunding everyone's tickets, though that's nice. But the quiet generosity of a $500,000 donation to help struggling workers. That's the kind of thing her mother would have whispered to her father in private, would have reminded him that real power comes from lifting others up. He sounds like a good man who loves his daughter very much, Andrea says. Maya nods, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. He is. He really is. Here's what I want to know. Have you ever witnessed someone use their power or privilege to genuinely help others rather than just flex? Share your stories in the comments, because I think we need more reminders that wealth can be used for good. As Andrea walks away, Maya pulls out her phone and texts her father. "Thank you for the employee hardship fund. Mom would be so proud of you." The response comes almost immediately. "I'm trying to be the man she believed I could be. And the father you deserve. See you soon, sweetheart." Maya looks around the first-class cabin. At the elderly couple, holding hands and talking excitedly about where they'll use their free tickets. At the business executive, who's already on his phone, probably canceling whatever complaint he was drafting. At the influencer, filming herself talking about this incredible act of customer service. At Dr. Park, who catches her eye and raises his water glass in a small salute. At Andrea and Veronica, standing together in the galley, having what looks like a real conversation for the first time all flight. And Maya realizes something profound. This flight started as a nightmare. A test of endurance, of dignity, of her ability to handle cruelty with grace. She got on this plane as a girl trying to prove she didn't need her father's help, didn't need his money, didn't need anything from his world. But somewhere between the meal service and the beverage assault, between the panic attack and the bathroom breakdown, between the apology and the phone call, Maya figured out something important. It's not about proving you don't need help. It's about knowing when to accept it and when to refuse it. It's about using privilege and power to lift others up rather than put them down. It's about recognizing that hurt people, and choosing compassion without accepting mistreatment. Her mother knew these things. Lived them every day of her life. And now Maya is learning them, one difficult flight at a time. She wraps the blanket tighter around herself, takes a bite of the chicken Veronica brought her, and settles in for the remaining hours of the flight. In 6 hours she'll land in Singapore. Her father will be waiting at the gate, probably with flowers and definitely with the kind of fierce hug that comes from someone who almost lost you and is grateful beyond words that you're okay. Really talk about her mother, about grief, about the distance between them and how to close it. About what it means to be a family when the glue that held you together is gone. It won't be perfect. There will be awkward moments and old wounds and patterns that don't change overnight. But it will be a beginning. And sometimes that's enough. Maya closes her eyes, and for the first time since boarding this flight, she feels something close to peace. Not because everything is fixed. Not because the pain is gone. Not because Veronica's apology erased the humiliation or her father's gestures undid the trauma. But because Maya Chin, 22 years old, Stanford student, daughter of a billionaire she's been running from, keeper of her mother's memory, just learned that she's strong enough to handle whatever comes next. Even first class. The plane touches down in Dubai, and as the first-class passengers disembark, there's a palpable shift in the air. The lounge they enter is nothing short of spectacular, gleaming marble floors, pristine white furniture, an elaborate spread of international cuisine, private showers, and secluded rest areas. It's the kind of luxury that's designed to make you forget you're in an airport at all. Maya finds her way to the shower facilities, washing away not just the physical exhaustion of the ordeal, but something deeper. She changes into fresh clothes from her carry-on, and when she emerges, she looks transformed, not just cleaner, but lighter somehow. In the main lounge area, something remarkable has happened. These passengers who boarded as strangers, united only by their ticket class, have become something else entirely. They're clustered in small groups, sharing contact information, laughing about moments from the flight that didn't seem funny hours ago. Trauma has a strange way of bonding people. The elderly couple spots Maya and makes their way over. The husband's eyes are bright with emotion as he speaks. "We just wanted to thank you. That refund and those tickets, we can visit our granddaughter in London now. We couldn't afford it before." His wife adds, her voice trembling slightly, "You didn't have to be so gracious about everything. But because you were, something good came from something bad." Maya's response is simple and genuine. "I'm so glad. Your granddaughter is lucky to have you." They embrace her, and it's the kind of hug that says more than words ever could. Next comes the business executive, the man who'd been filming during the worst of it. "I deleted the video, by the way," he tells her. "Didn't feel right keeping it." Maya thanks him, but he's not finished. Your father called me personally. Asked if you'd been hurt or traumatized. I told him you were the most composed person in the cabin. What did he say? Maya asks, curious. That you got that from your mother. A smile crosses Maya's face, sad and proud at the same time. The influencer approaches next, and Maya braces herself, but the young woman surprises her. Hey, so I didn't post anything about what happened. Figured you wouldn't want it out there. But I did post about your dad's generosity. In a good way. Hope that's okay. That's more than okay, Maya responds with genuine relief. Thank you for being respectful. You're a class act, the influencer says warmly. Your parents definitely raised you right. Then Maya notices Veronica sitting alone across the lounge, and after a moment's hesitation, she walks over. Mind if I sit? Of course, Veronica replies. They sit in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that's full rather than empty. Finally, Veronica speaks. I heard about your father's donation. To the hardship fund. I just found out myself, Maya admits. It's going to change lives. Including mine. I'm glad. Veronica takes a deep breath. I spent the last hour thinking about what you said. About hurt people hurting people. I've been so angry since my divorce. Angry at my ex, angry at the world, angry at anyone who seemed to have it easier than me. That's understandable, Maya says without judgment. But it's not sustainable. And it's not who I want to be. Especially not who I want my daughter to see. Maya's response is thoughtful. It sounds like your daughter is lucky to have a mom who's willing to look at herself honestly. I'm going to make changes. Real ones. Starting with therapy. That's brave. Then Veronica asks the question that's been weighing on her. Can I ask, how do you do it? Stay so kind when the world is so hard. Maya considers this carefully. I don't always. I have bad days. Days where I'm angry at the world for taking my mom. Days where I resent my dad for not being around more when she was alive. But my mom, she taught me that bitterness is a heavy weight to carry. Kindness is lighter. Your mother sounds like she was an extraordinary person. She was ordinary in every way except the ones that mattered. And that made her extraordinary. They sit together, two women who started as adversaries, now sharing a moment of genuine understanding. It's a small miracle, really, how crisis can break people open in ways that allow light to get in. The announcement comes. The flight to Singapore is ready for boarding. The passengers gather their belongings, but there's a different energy now. They're not just strangers sharing a cabin anymore. As they board, Andrea is at the door again, greeting passengers. When Maya appears, Andrea hugs her tightly. Thank you. For everything. Take care of yourself, okay? Maya responds. You too. Veronica is working this flight as well, but she's completely transformed. Gone is the brittle defensiveness, the barely concealed resentment. She's attentive, warm, genuine with every passenger. When she reaches Maya, she says, Ms. Richardson, welcome aboard. I've prepared a fresh meal for you, and please let me know if there's anything at all I can do to make your flight comfortable. Thank you, Veronica. And please call me Maya. Veronica's smile is genuine this time, Maya. If this story has moved you so far, don't forget to subscribe to see how Maya's journey ends. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the powerful conclusion. The flight takes off smoothly. Maya settles into her seat with a book, but she can't focus. Her mind is too full, her heart too stirred. She pulls out her phone and opens her messages with her dad. She types, Dad, I'm boarding the second leg now. Thank you for what you did. The donation, the lounge, everything. But mostly, thank you for listening to me. For trusting me. I can't wait to see you. We have so much to talk about. I think Mom would be proud of us for finally doing this. I love you. She sends it and immediately, a response appears. She would be proud of you. You've become an incredible woman. I see your mother in you every day, and it breaks my heart and heals it at the same time. I can't wait to hug you. Get some rest. I'll be at the airport. Lifted. Maya's vision blurs with tears. She looks out the window at the endless clouds below, feeling her mother's presence somehow, in the kindness she chose, in the grace she maintained, in the strength she found. Time passes. The flight lands in Singapore. Maya gathers her things, the worn photograph of her mother tucked safely in her pocket where it's traveled this entire journey. She exits the plane, moves through the terminal with purpose. At arrivals, she scans the crowd, searching. And then she sees him. James Richardson, tall, distinguished, silver threading through his dark hair, dressed more casually than she's ever seen him. And he's holding a sign. A handmade sign that reads, "My amazing daughter Maya." Maya laughs through her tears. She runs to him. They collide in an embrace, both of them crying openly, not caring who sees. "I'm so sorry," James says, his voice breaking. "For not being there enough. For not talking about Mom. For everything." "I'm sorry too," Maya responds. "For pushing you away. For not letting you in. Your mother would have handled this whole thing better than both of us. Probably. But we're figuring it out. Together. Together." They start walking toward the exit, James's arm wrapped protectively around his daughter's shoulders. "So," he says, a hint of humor in his voice. "What actually happened on that flight? It's a long story. We have time. All the time in the world." Maya takes a breath. "Dad? I think I want to tell you about Mom. All the things I've been holding in since she died." James stops walking, turns to face her fully. "I'd like that. I'd like that very much. And I want to hear about her from your perspective. The stories I never heard." "Deal." They exit into the Singapore sunshine, and as they do, the worn photograph slips from Maya's pocket. A kind stranger calls out, "Miss, you dropped this." Maya turns back, takes the photo and looks at it. Her mother's smiling face, frozen in time but somehow still so alive. Maya speaks quietly, to the photograph, to the memory, to the woman who shaped her. "Thanks, Mom, for teaching me how to be strong and kind at the same time." She tucks the photo back in her pocket, takes her father's hand, and together they walk forward, into healing, into honesty, into a relationship they're finally ready to rebuild. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where a crisis forced you to reconnect with someone you'd grown distant from? Share your story in the comments below. In the end, Maya's journey wasn't really about a nightmare flight or a viral moment or even standing up to injustice. It was about carrying forward the legacy of love her mother left behind, the lesson that meeting cruelty with grace isn't weakness, it's the highest form of strength. And it was about a father and daughter finally finding their way back to each other through the memory of the woman they both loved and lost. Some endings aren't really endings at all. They're beginnings in disguise.